project charter design. So let's get started. I want to give you a little background about this webinar. So about a year ago, an idea came to my mind that how AI can be used in project management. So I thought, let us leverage the great minds of project managers, and I had a shout out on LinkedIn and say, okay, I want to experiment it. I want to explore this, how to use AI. I want to create a volunteer group, and there was a very good response. There was a great response to that, and we had 10, 12 people who came, and we started just discussing how do we use AI, and what are the different areas, what are the different use cases. So we identified use cases, and then we said, okay, now we have identified the use cases. Like for our first use case was, uh, the status reporting. How every project manager talks about status reports. So say, okay, how a status report can be generated. Then we identified a few more, and I say, okay, now we have identified the use cases. Let's now make it a reality. How really it is going to work. So we are calling it proof of concept. So that's how it started about a year ago. After that, some people dropped. Usually, people have their other things. Sometimes their interest is not there. So some dropped, and then once again, there is January. We presented that status reporting POC at projectmanagement.com, and then I again said, okay, if you want to join, and then we have a new blood coming in for the new project managers came in, and I right now we have I think maybe at least a dozen who are working as this group, and we have different use cases and POCs, and I'm going to share that today, and then we will get into the details about the project chartering. So that we have a team here that worked on project chartering. So that team will take you through their experience. Okay, can we move on? Uh, so this is the agenda. I already talked about agenda in brief, so we can get to the. This is our POC team, and there are 12 people. Okay, I said it doesn't. I hope Philip has not left anybody out from this. So this is the team that is working on next screen, please. So we are working on next one, please. So these are the different use cases that we have identified. Uh, there are 6 that are in progress. You will be seeing project charter today. And then we have 2 that we completed. Okay, there are 2 that we completed, and we presented at projectmanagement.com and got a very good feedback from thousands of project managers. So the vision and goal of this group is to explore different areas within project management and see how AI can be used, what are the different tools that can be used, and how make it more meaningful and practical for the project managers. So you can see some of that on projectmanagement.com. These 2 are the recorded webinars available on projectmanagement.com if you want to go and look at that. So I will stop here and hand it over to Bill, who led the project chartering team. So Bill, take over from here and share whatever you want to share with the group over here. You are on mute, Bill.
Thanks, NK. So I'm Bill Gundrum. I'm a PMO consultant. I've been doing that for well over 20 years, and specialize in setting up and establishing and optimizing PMOs. And usually there's an enterprise PPM system that goes along with that, and as well have done quite a bit of transitional and transformational enterprise program management, mergers, acquisitions, large EMP installations, and along those sorts. So the rest of our team, so I'm kind of a novice here with more of a hack and a power user with AI, but Gitanjali and Shobha are the experts here. So Gitanjali has 10 years experience in program management and has worked across various industries, healthcare, energy, higher education, and she's passionate about learning, implementing emerging technologies, and educational content and creation. And Shobha has 20 years of experience, digital transformation, cybersecurity, manufacturing systems, and specializes in aligning technology with business strategy to drive impactful data-driven results. And as we're going through this, you'll see a lot of detail and behind the scenes, and these two are rock stars. They know how everything works behind the scenes and how this artificial intelligence can really help you on your journey. Okay, next slide, please. And so at NK, he gave a brief introduction. He's the guy that's leading this effort and has as the CEO, Enterprise Agile Coach with RefineM, and so you can see quite a bit of his accomplishments there. But if you stay in touch with RefineM, they've got a lot of activities going on, and as he mentioned, we have these different use cases, and they're eventually being presented through PMI and projectmanagement.com as well. Okay, next slide. So NK, I don't know if you wanted to share any more about this.
No, Bill. No, Bill. Move on.
Okay.
Yeah, move on. Leave this one also.
Okay. So we had the agenda at the beginning. We kind of skipped over, but I want to clarify a couple of things. So we're going to start out with some definitions about what is a charter. There's often confusion there, and then we're going to lead into some examples with free AI options, and then some examples with paid AI options, so you can see different approaches and the results that come out of generating a charter. And the other part we're going to do is a visual representation of charters. So many times people don't want to read a long document, so it's nice to have something clear and succinct. And we have some good success stories there, so you'll see that, and particularly handy like in a kickoff meeting or just getting everybody on the same page. You still have the document as a reference, but the visual representation goes a long way. And then we'll talk about some other extending the charter, how we can use that further in project management and even toward portfolio management and PMOs. Okay, so the first thing, I started out with PMI Infinity. And if you've been around the block, you know that there's often a confusion about what a charter really is. Some people use that term, the charter, of actually defining the project, the overall project plan, the project definition. So just wanted to set the stage and ask PMI Infinity, what is a project charter? And each of these responses, there's a lot more behind it that explains it. But one of the things that jumped out when I just asked that, it said it's created by the project manager. And in the purest sense, the project manager does not create the charter. It's given to the project manager as the authority to begin and proceed with the project. However, in real life, many of us, we know that doesn't often happen. The project manager does end up generating the charter. So for clarification, I said, what is a charter according to the PMBOK guide? And here it said that the charter is generated by the initiator or the sponsor. So a couple interesting facts there. And also that definition at the very bottom is what comes out of the PMBOK Guide 7, as well as the process group's process guide. So it's consistent there. But one of the things that you'll notice with AI is you can ask it one question one day, and the next day you get something a little bit different. And just the way you phrase it, you may get different information. And the other interesting observation, when the sources were referenced, it was never the PMBOK guide. I'm not sure why. It did reference the process groups, but most of it was coming from knowledge-based articles that PMI has in its arsenal. Okay, next slide, please. So just a little more clarification of what a project really is. So I asked, when in the project lifecycle should the project be created? And it said in the initiation phase. So that's consistent. It's the beginning of the project and giving you authority to proceed. So for more clarification, if you're PMP certified, you know the project management plan and the scope statement really are the details of how you're going to run the project. So just ask, what's the difference between the charter, the project management plan, and the charter and a scope statement? So it's very helpful here, especially for people that don't want to pick up the PMBOK guide and read all those definitions. You can get a lot of good information quickly just by asking the questions. And then taking this step further, as I said, sometimes the people use the charter for a lot of details. I ask, does the charter include requirements? And one thing I've noticed, it almost never answers no. It always says yes, but it's yes, but. So it says, yes, the charter can include high-level requirements. Then it goes on to describe it helps to guide the detailed requirements gathering phase. So that's a little confusing because what are high-level requirements? Typically, it's objectives and goals that are at the charter level and not requirements. And Shobha will take an example where she did go from charter and into requirements. You'll see a little bit later. Next slide, please. So then I gave it a real test. I gave us this really confusing sentence and said, create a project charter for a project to create a proof of concept to generate a project charter using artificial intelligence. Essentially what we were doing in this whole proof of concept exercise. And I was impressed that that confusing sentence, it interpreted it and came back with a charter with good details. I didn't show all the details here, but there's more behind it. So then 2 days later, as I was getting ready to put this into a slide, I had noticed a grammatical error and I put in the word a, create a charter for a project, and I got completely different results. The content and the theme was essentially the same, but the way that it responded and the items within the charter were all different. So just beware that you can get different results from one day to the next, and whether it was just by adding the word a into it or that time has passed. It also made me wonder, maybe is it learning from the different questions that I've asked that it might be tailoring responses as we're going forward. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Shobha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's going to take you through an example using AI to generate a real charter with all the details here.
Thank you, Bill. So as NK and Bill mentioned, our focus for this POC was to understand how we can use generative AI and and assist project managers in accelerating documentation like project charter, and also making sure it's aligned to our standards and the PMBOK standards, basically. So what I'm going to do is walk you through the free AI tools that I used for generating the charters, and like I used ChatGPT and also I used PMI Infinity. So I'll walk you through those and try to find out the key differences and what are my findings from this. So in this particular presentation, if you see, the prompt that I have given was very generic. I haven't given any information about the project. I just said, as a project manager, I'm working on this project, provide a high level charter. So I gave the high level project charter, and what all it did was basically it gave me like a placeholder for everything, like the project sponsor, project manager, date, version, and the project justification. Because I said network separation project, it understood and it gave us the purpose and the justification, objectives, key deliverables, milestones. If you look at this, most of this information is like the placeholders with where I have to insert the dates, and approvals and names. Most of the information is like placeholder. Then moving on to the next slide, when I gave the prompt little more specific to my project, and I also said, please align this charter to PMBOK standard, that's when it gave me the complete project charter that can be used as is, like, what is the purpose of this project, what would be the business case, justification, where it said, reduce the cybersecurity risks, because I'm talking about the network separation project. It identified like, yeah, we are trying to do this because of the threats and cybersecurity risks. And it came out with a very good charter with all the information detailing out the high level requirements, what should be, because I have mentioned here, this project charter will not be updating any application software, no network traffic from IT to OT. So it made sure to put what is in the scope, what is out of scope, And if you go on to the next slide, it also gives us, what are because I mentioned aligning to PMBOK standards, it made sure that we consider the constraints, assumptions, risks, and the key deliverables from this. What is the budget? How should I break down the budget for what different categories? So it detailed out in more details, so which could be used as is for presenting it to our stakeholders. So I did use the same prompts in the PMI Infinity. So the one more thing I would like to highlight is that after doing all this, I said, okay, give me this into an exported Word document, and it did a good job and gave me the Word document that I can use it or send it over to my stakeholders. And I did do the same prompts and everything in PMI Infinity, which you can see in the next slide. Uh, so in this, I gave the general information, but I added some little more information about my project. And here, if you see, it came up with a very high level charter again with the project scope, budget, completion date, because I said by end of 2025, it gave me a completion date, and the traffic separation, also segregation, how it should be done. And the network design, it gave me more about network design, security, consider all the different considerations that I should be putting into, in the charter, and a very high level summary, testing, validation, and stakeholder communication. In the previous chat GPT, it did not mention anything about the stakeholder communication, but since PMI Infinity is more aligned towards a PMI, so it is talking about stakeholder communication, more aligned to whatever the jargons that we use in the project management. It considered those, and it has given us the stakeholder communication and all that information. Moving on to the next slide. So again, here I again put in all the information with all the in scope, out of scope, what all information that I had given for ChatGPT. And here this is more aligned to the project management. So the difference, so here again, it does not give the real risk constraints have been mentioned over here. But the only difference that I saw from the previous thing was the detailed requirements breakdown, which it did in the chat GPT, was not clearly mentioned in PMI Infinity. And when I said, can you please export this into Word document, it failed to do that the first time. The second time also it failed. The third time the output was generated, but it was not great. It was not aligned the way it would can be used as is. I had to make some changes, tweaks before I could share with the stakeholders. Even so if we move on to the next slide. So the key differences, as I mentioned, was like, ChatGPT was highly versatile. It does not stick to just one particular project management PMBO. It looks around the world, so, all the research papers, everything. It goes through all the documentation, and it gives us the output in a more detailed and structured format compared to PMI Infinity, where I felt, as Bill mentioned, it goes through the project practice guide, or maybe PMBOK, or the templates with the webinars that it used in the PMI, and that's what it references and gives us the output. And then even the in chat gpt, the exports were really good, and I never had to do any other small change. But when it came to PMI, I had to spend time to tweak some of the information. And the free version, there was no limit, but in the on the free version of chat gpt, I had a limit, like it says you tried this many number of times, but it doesn't stop us from trying it again, but it still shows us that message saying, oh, you have exceeded your limit. But in PMI, I could give any number of prompts, and I could try without any limit restrictions, actually. Yeah, moving on to next slide. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Shobha. I'll take it from here. So similar to what Shobha did, we wanted to experiment all the Gen AI tools that are popular in the market. So what I did was I tested the same experimentation, but with the paid versions of Claude by Anthropic and Microsoft Copilot. So as you can see in the slide, I gave a prompt to create a project charter for a manual process of generating a strategic workforce planning process. So I asked specifically that, can you create a project charter to automate a strategic workforce planning process of a company which is manual at the time? So what it did was it generated the charter in the form of a document, and then it also gave the rationale, like what are the key points in the charter document. Now, this is when I click on the link, this is how it looks like, the output of the charter. What I found was it was very detailed, like they have broken down each and every structure and even feed in more information for each areas like project overview, the business case, the what are the project objectives and success criteria, what is in scope and out scope. When it mentioned the deliverables, it broke down it into different phases, starting from initiation to execution and closure. It also gave a very detailed breakdown of the key stakeholders along with what are their roles and responsibilities. The second part of the charter where it mentioned the timelines and what are the milestones, they have also provided like what are the description and what each milestones mean and what is the target date. As you can see, we have not provided a detailed input for all the constraints there, on the parameters. So it is more like a placeholder for different areas where they don't have enough information. For example, what is the target date and what is the estimated cost under budget section and all those areas. But it has at the same time, since they have an idea that it is an automation project, so they gave a very good breakdown of the risk areas, like what are the data quality issues, what are the integrity complexity and other areas, along with what kind of impact they might have, like the impact as well as the probability, and what are the mitigation strategies to address them. And one of the section which I really liked, and I didn't find it any of the other tools that they provided, was the dependencies and the assumptions. Like you can see, like in big organizations where you're working on complex projects, there are a lot of dependencies between different projects as well as different departments and organizations. So I really like this particular section. As well, it also provided the generic assumptions that comes with any software development project. It also provided the constraints and the governance structure. And you can see the governance structure is also very well defined here. Like they provided which is the project steering committee, who are part of that team, then what is the meeting cadence. If you need to reach out to, like anybody in the project, who can reach out to first. So it has also given you the hierarchy for the explanation escalation path as well. The other interesting point was the change management approach. This is a very emerging concept, but it has been implemented in across many companies where they want to have a standardized change management approach. So I really like that section being added there. Approval section is very common, which we found was provided in most of the other tools as well. I gave the same prompt to Microsoft Copilot, as you can see in the screenshot. What I found was this was also a very good output that they provided, but it was more concise and to the point. It followed a very standardized template that is part of every project charter. So as you can see, it has the objective success criteria, what is in scope, out scope, what are the deliverables, what are the risk strategies, and of course the budget and stakeholder section. So I would say my takeaway from using Claude and Copilot for the same project charter generation was that Claude is definitely way more comprehensive, and they go very much in depth and provide a very detailed structure for all the areas. On the other hand, Copilot provides much concise document with more focus on high level clarity. But what I found with Copilot is that it is very useful if you have a Microsoft Office Suite environment, and it's very easy to integrate with your other applications like SharePoint, Microsoft Office, and Excel. So it's in terms of integration, I think Copilot takes away the prize here. But when it comes to Claude, it's little bit more challenging to generate, like output documents and then integrate it with other applications. I think Claude is more suited for project managers who are looking for more detailed, deep down output here. But if you're a new project manager, or if you are looking for something very quick and you don't want to go into each detail, I think Copilot suits better. There's something we also tried as well, like while we were working, three of us working on the POC, we thought like there are times when we want to have, there are times and there are teams and there are situations where you want more visual and something more quick to digest, right? And you don't want to read through pages of documents. So we tried this another AI tool called Gamma. And I use the free version. So as you can see down there, it's saying you are almost out of credit. So they have like, I think, 40 cards that you can use. So what I did was this is the prompt editor. As you can see, I have provided all the prompts on the right side of my screen, which is instructions. And I gave similar instruction like I gave to Claude and Copilot, but I also added that make sure to add flow charts, tables, or other graphical components wherever it is appropriate. And I also asked to give it a more professional look that is easy to digest for executives, like who have very little time to skim through these kind of output. I also made sure to ask that it looks much more aligned and it has a condensed look. So the output came out something like this. So this was the first page of the, like more like an introductory page, and then it provided me a one pager for the project charter overview. As you can see, it has included all the components that were previously you saw in Copilot or Cloud. So it provides all the sections like what is the overview, then the business case, what are the planning stages and execution time, what are the budgets and milestones required for this project. So I think it's a wonderful one pager, and I was really happy with the way it came out. So just to peek into my more curiosity, I tried with Cloud as well. The output was slightly different here. It was not able to provide me a one pager directly, but it provided more like a PowerPoint presentation in a presentation in an HTML format. So what it did was I put all the charter that I previously generated from Claude, and I uploaded the document here, as you can see on the left side of the screen. And then I asked to provide me a professional looking slide deck of not more than 5 or 6 pages, just to give me a more like an executive summary. So if you can see just above the prompt, there is a link that it provides the HTML file. So if we click on that, it generates the output that you see on the right side of the screen. I'll just quickly scroll through the slides so that you can get an idea of how the output looks. Like this is the executive presentation introductory page, and then it provides similar sections like project overview, what is the business case. It also provides what are the challenges and solution benefits from implementing the project. Then it goes into the project scope, timelines, and milestones. And then it provides the success criteria and budget. As you can see, they have done a budget breakdown here, so it's very easy to read through it because it's like a pie chart, so it's you can quickly absorb these kind of information. It also in the end provides the risk mitigation and the governance structure information. So that's pretty much how it looks when you do a visual representation of the project charter through AI tool. Moving on to Shobha again, I'm passing on to you.
Yeah, thank you, Gitanjali. So after developing the project charter, I was a little more curious about, okay, how can we generate requirements based on this project charter? So I gave the prompt to the chat GPT and said, okay, based on this charter, give me high level requirements and detailed, and it can be exported into Excel sheet. So it did that. It considered the category, the requirement description, and who is responsible to for that, but each and every requirement, which team is responsible. And I was able to easily download this template in an Excel, and it had most of the information, so it was good and easy. This is something, which would be really helpful when if you are assigned to a different domain project. For example, I'm a technical project manager, but if I have to work on a construction project tomorrow, then instead of going into the meetings and without having any basic understanding, if I give a general the prompt, also ChatGPT gives us most of the information regarding the charter. It also gives us the high level requirements. So we are well prepared for that meeting. As the kickoff meeting, we can contribute to the meeting instead of just listening to our stakeholders talking about it. So that was really helpful for me. So, and moving on to the next slide, I just did the same prompt again in PMI Infinity. It was way more detailed than the charter, and it also considered all the different project management related, apart from the network assessment or network design, it also considered the procurement, how what needs to be done, what are the testing and validations. It was talking about the risk management, stakeholder engagement, documentation and testing. So it was, and project closure. So it was giving it it was also defining all the phases of the project. At the same time, it was also telling, like what should you do, how can you procure what the information or the material that you need, how can you procure it, and what kind of testing should be followed, what kind of project management guidelines or artifacts you should be doing or developing for this project. So it was way more detailed and more aligned towards the project management, I would say. So moving on to the next slide. So then, out of the requirements and charter is done, I work in a manufacturing company, and most of the companies, I believe, the executive team doesn't have the time to go through 10 to 15 pages of document. They always want a one pager. So I tried doing that again using ChatGPT. It came out with a one pager document. Then I said, oh great, can you please download it into a PowerPoint presentation? And what it did was, it did, but the only problem it wasn't a one pager, it was like 8 pager, because it was giving project overview in one slide. Each of these was split into 6 different project presentation slides, which I really didn't like it. But it was so easy to just copy, snap it, and put it into a one pager, and useful. It can be presented to our executives. So that was really useful again. So moving on to the next slide. Yep, Bill, it's up to you.
Okay. So from my perspective, my role is setting up PMOs. So I'm always looking for standards and reuse, consistency, templates, and things to make it easier for the project manager to get started. And as you can see here, the AI approach is great for giving you a lot of ideas and content samples, but we want to try to get it consistent. And so one of the first steps is really understanding what is a charter, what are the contents that you want to have, and where do you generate that charter in the life cycle, and being consistent, because it can get pretty confusing. As I've mentioned before, a lot of people they've used that term of a charter to really define the project. And even in the Claude example, it put a lot of details in that might be resident in the project management plan and that approach. So anyway, trying to standardize on that, and just the little flow chart at the bottom here, you have ideas that are coming in. They might be in there. That's your portfolio, and they could be a list maybe in SharePoint. And then your process might be, just for an example, if it's a major project, a huge investment, the first step might be a discovery phase. And then coming out of that discovery phase, if you decide to go forward, then you generate the charter when it becomes a project. Also, that whole discovery thing could be a project itself and just that phase, and there's a charter with that. But then on the slower projects, your policy might be you're just going to initiate right away, and there's where you would generate the charter. So the first step is trying to get consistent there. Then second, I wanted one of my other goals was to try to fill in a standardized template where you might have specific topics that you want in a charter. Maybe it has your logo in the header and footer, and that failed. We weren't able to get that to work. But as you can see, these things improve by the day. So that may be coming pretty soon. So my next perspective then was I'm working with a list of projects, the portfolio in the PMO, and I'd like to be able to generate a charter from that list. Next slide, please. So I started out with Copilot, and I with the example of maybe we have a list of projects in SharePoint. I said, can Copilot select items from a SharePoint list? So once again, it answered yes. Copilot can help with SharePoint list, but the real answer in red there says, however, I can't directly interact with SharePoint lists or modify them for you. So one of the things that annoys me is the AI never seems to want to tell you no at the beginning. It says yes, but no. So then I said, well, can I export the SharePoint list into Excel? And yes, we can do that. And then can Copilot select a row from Excel? And here it says that it can't directly work with rows and select rows there. So next slide. So then I took a different approach, and I went to ChatGPT, and I thought, well, can I create a list of projects and have our own little system right here in ChatGPT? So I said, create a list of projects, and then I gave it a title and a status and a proposal and a target date. And from there, it generated on the left-hand side. It first just did it in bullets for each of the fields. I just kept it simple, four fields there to a simple portfolio, but gives you an idea where the projects are. So then I said, well, can I display these in a table? And it did that really nicely, puts everything in a table. I added a few more projects, and I have this status column there. So proposal means it's an idea, we haven't gone forward yet. And then pending means we're ready, we've approved it, ready to go, active, we're working on it. So approved would be we're ready to initiate this project and therefore generate a charter. Next slide, please. So then I said, create a project charter for any project with status approved and change their status to active. And it worked. So the very first one, and just based on the project title, it came up with a charter for the acquisition of a company in a good structure. A lot more detail I didn't show here behind that, but it was a really good approach, and it did change in the table, change the status from approved to active. However, it only picked one. It didn't do both projects. It only pulled the last project. Not sure why it picked the last one, but it's impressive. Thinking in the future where we may be able to go with this, and again, you could quickly just generate a starting place of a charter and then get moving on the project. Next slide, please. So we talked about it before. Then we also want to export this information very often. So my first was export the XYZ to Word, and this is all from ChatGPT, and it failed. So I said export the table, and I just said export the table. That's all I said. It defaulted to Word, and it did put everything in the table nicely. Then I got this message that says you've hit the free plan limit, and so I was scared. Is it just going to shut me down? But I kept on going, and it continued to work. It must have switched to a different model, and I was able to continue and get information. So I asked, can we export the table to Excel? Again, did that very nicely. And then I came back and said, generate the charter. And this time it was more specific, export the XYZ acquisition project charter to Word, and it did put it into a Word document. So overall, I was real impressed with how, particularly if you want to get definitions, you don't want to pick up the PMBOK guide and want to understand the terminology. There's a wealth of information, but more importantly, it gives you a lot of good content to get started with ideas. And of course, you want to put your own brain and perspective on it, but it gives you a starting place that you can modify and tweak and set these up into for your own charters and moving forward. Okay, Chitanjali?
Thank you, Bill. So as we wrap up, we have done this comparative analysis from our experiences so far. But let's remember what these AI tools really mean to us as project managers. So we are not just comparing software here. We are trying to look a different way to kick off our projects. We are trying to reduce time which can be done or which can be actually automated, and invest our time where it really matters. And those are actually strategic decisions. So what we found here, the real takeaway is not about picking a winner here. So everything depends on your situation, your organization, and your requirements. So each tool we found had their own plus points and own limitations. In terms of cost, we found that all of them have a free and a paid version, other than PMI Infinity, which is free for paid members, right? So ultimately, it comes with a cost. But other than that, all of them, like Microsoft Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT, they have both free and paid versions. In terms of paid versions, the cost is also approximately more or less same. In terms of output quality, it depends on what kind of output you're looking for. If you're looking for a very detailed breakdown and deep down information, I think Claude and paid version of Claude and ChatGPT, they do a really good job. But if you're looking for where you want to stick to, PMI standards, and you want to have technical context there with high quality outputs, I think PMI Infinity takes away the price there. If you want something more concise and high level information, then Microsoft Copilot is a very good option. In terms of integration, again, I think Microsoft Copilot works very well, especially if you have the Microsoft Office suite and you are working on different applications within the ecosystem. In terms of data privacy and ethical standards, I think Claude and ChatGPT are very good. Uh, Microsoft Copilot have their own specific policies, and you have to adhere with them. Same with PMI Infinity, more or less, they have good professional standards. In terms of data privacy, I would also like to add this point that it also depends on your company policies and what kind of security measures you are implementing. So you have to be very mindful about protecting your data. Uh, when I talk about limitations, all of them had their own limitations from our observation. For example, Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT tend to hallucinate at times. They may provide sometimes information that or like that is not to the point, and you have to go back and refine your prompts to get the output that you are actually looking for. In terms of more refined output, I think Claude and PMI are really good. But the problem with Claude is that the more features you tend to add, they try to make it more premium in terms of cost. So that's one of the limitations with Claude. And it also has limited integration in terms of project management tools compared to other options. So as I come to the last conclusion slide, I would like to think about it like, in general, how long it takes for you to create a project charter over if you use a Gen AI tool and you just give the information and you can create your charter just with a cup of coffee in the morning, and it can be created in minutes versus hours. But before you can master the art, I think you need to have a little bit of learning curve. In my experience, the learning curve was not that difficult. We tried two to three times and we were able to create a charter the way we wanted. And the other benefit of using Gen AI tool is that it gives you a list of activity list like Bill showed, and it also provides you template or a simple checklist that you can use for other projects as well. But the only, I would not say drawback, but a word of caution. You have to be like initially when you are developing your charter, you have to do a detailed review. Remember that these AI tools learn from what you are training it. So the better you are training it, the better your output will be. Like as they say, garbage in, garbage out, right? So it has to be depending on what kind of prompt you're feeding in, you will get similar output. So it also depends on what kind of parameters and assumptions you are giving. Sometimes you can see even between tools, like some tools are very good in taking assumptions. For example, PMI Infinity, they are very good in considering the assumptions given its knowledge bank, right? So it depends on which tool you are using and what you are looking for. The other thing is it has limited capabilities in terms of organizational context, because every project requirement is different, every organization's preferences are different. So you have to train your AI tool according to what you are looking for. A couple of best practices that we discovered while working on this process is like you have to be very specific, you have to provide the right structure and context to it, otherwise it may sway to a different direction. Make sure that you provide key project parameters and constraints. Um, the other thing in terms of an organizational setting, which is very important, is that you train your employees and your team in terms of good practices, best practices in terms of prompt engineering, the security and regulatory practices that govern your company. You have to set up a clear guideline and policy for safe Gen AI practice. It is also very critical that you implement proper data security measures, especially when you are working with sensitive client data. You have to be mindful about security data breach. And you also have to be very careful about intellectual property rights and biases. Generally, what I have seen, like if you ask Gen AI tools, like when they generate any output, you can ask them to quote the sources, like where they are using from, so that you are comfortable about not breaching any data or using any copyrighted data. So that is very good that they can provide you the sources. And last but not the least, I would say stay up to date on technological advancements, because these tools every day they are coming out with some new features in the market. So yesterday's practice might not be today's best practice. So keep on the lookout, read a lot, and be aware of the new advancements around you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, team. Thank you, team. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Time for questions. Does anybody has any question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Karthik will always have a question, right? Hey, Bill, I just want a suggestion. You mentioned that some of the main drawback with these tools is they will not be able to adhere to the template the organization has, like a logo and everything. You can do that if you prepare a template of your organization, a blueprint or watermark, okay, and then you submit that as part of the input before you prompt, and then you can tell the tool that here is a template and I want to have these sections filled in like this, then it will be able to do that. It's all everything AI, regardless of which tool we are using. The whole crux of it is prompt engineering, period.
Yeah.
You are writing, basically, you are doing nothing but you're writing a code, like you do pseudocode before you can do a proper programming. That's why it's called artificial intelligence, because it's just whatever we give is how it's going to get. So tremendous amount of input has to be given to the companies, people who are going to use it on the prompt engineering training. That is a key for the
Right.
whole AI. And then
Very
Yeah,
good.
just a suggestion also, try to use another tool called Perplexity. You'll
yes.
be thrilled
Mhm.
what it can do for you.
Yeah, the thing is that there are so many tools,
Right.
and different people like different tools, and basically you get comfortable with the tool that you use most.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are so many tools. So I think one of the objective of this POCs is let people pick the tool that they want to.
Sure, sure. No,
So
I was
so
suggesting, try it.
it's up to them what they want to do and what they want to experiment. So there are so many tools, I can tell you there may be 100 tools.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, NK. I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting try using it. That's all.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
So I will leave it to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will not even suggest. I will just I will just
Yeah.
let them. I will empower them to use whatever they want to use. But yeah,
Yeah.
perplexity. I heard of perplexity. It's a
Yeah.
good tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to add regarding the prompts also, Karthik, is that when we do multiple trials, right, we can ask ChatGPT, once we are satisfied with the output, we can tell ChatGPT, okay, based on my output, create a prompt that gives me the exact output from the next time. And ChatGPT does a good job in giving you the right prompt. And if you use that prompt once, it gives you the exact output. So that was, and to add what to Danke was saying, so many other tools like we had Grok, Perplexity. I have tried multiple free versions of it, but we wanted to stick to very limited for the presentation.
that's
So
fine.
yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyone has any questions? We have few minutes left here.
Oh, yes, I do. This is Sal. First of all, this has been very, very informative. So thank you for putting this together and sharing all of your insights. So my question has to do with more of your traditional project management software packages, such as Microsoft Project. Um, do you see AI replacing those more traditional types of software apps, or more a situation where you kind of have to learn how to use them in tandem, depending on your circumstances?
So Bill, Shobha, anybody want to pick up that?
I, I would say it would not replace, but it can integrate with it and make it easy. Instead of you going directly and updating the project, plan and everything, you can leverage AI tools and automate the workflow in such a way that it would automatically update it for you, the timelines and everything. But again, as we said, right, the security and the intellectual properties needs to be considered, but we can always automate the workflows. That's my thought when I was working on this chapter.
And a lot
Yeah,
of it depends on the type of project as well. So on really large projects, you're still going to need a lot of the traditional project management. But the way it's particularly in Copilot and with Planner, the new version, how they're rolling that out, there are project agents that essentially, for the right type of project, like building out a process and documenting it and sharing that, it can almost do the entire project with AI and you just prompting it along, including giving people's assignments and saying and asking them for their progress. And now it's not going to go in and update your Microsoft project schedule based on that, but at least it can facilitate a lot of those project management tasks that we have to do in the right project. And it'll continue growing over time. And just like I was showing some of the things you can do, essentially setting up a table and list of projects. In the future, I could see even though there may still be a PPM system behind it, but with an AI front end where you're primarily just talking to it and it's running the project for you.
Yeah, and Microsoft Project already had a Copilot.
Yeah.
It already has a Copilot. So Microsoft Office 365 has a Copilot, and Microsoft Project has a Copilot. So those Copilots are the basically enabling the AI within that application. So and most of the tools have Copilots, and if not today, then they will have in the future. So their tools are not going; they are just getting supplemented with AI.
I would like to add an interesting fun fact here that I saw in my previous company. So, as NK mentioned, that Copilot is integrated in your system, right? So, we had a system where Copilot was also integrated with our Teams channel. And sometimes, like within your company website, like SharePoint site, you have like a sea of information. Sometimes even a simple search might not fetch those very old files or difficult to find files on the intranet. So what Copilot does on Teams, like you can sit on your Teams and while you are, maybe conversation with your manager or team members, you can ask Copilot to find out the relevant information and it kind of fetches you the data points they're looking for. So I think that's I would say it's not going to replace our skill set, but maybe more enable us to work in a better way, more efficient way.
Thank you very much.
You guys can continue. Thank you, Bill and the team for great work for the POC and presenting it here. I think this is great. This is wonderful. I'm sure you would have learned a lot of things while doing this POC. So so that's a kind of a good thing. Thank you so much. You can